Maya Reyes had a way of noticing small things before they became big problems. She noticed when her coffee was slightly too bitter in the morning. She noticed when a font was off by half a point in a design file. She noticed when the same gray Honda Civic appeared outside her apartment building 3 days in a row. It was a Tuesday in late October when she first saw it. She had come home from work around 7 in the evening, her laptop bag cutting into her shoulder, her sneakers damp from the rain that had been falling since noon. The car was parked across the street under the amber glow of the street lamp. She would not have thought anything of it except that it was there on Wednesday morning when she left for work, and then, again on Thursday evening when she came back. Same spot. Same car. The engine off each time. Just sitting there like it belonged. She told herself it was nothing. Chicago was full of cars. People parked in neighborhoods that were not their own all the time. She went inside, ate leftover pasta, worked on a logo project until midnight, and went to bed. She did not think about the car again until she saw it outside her office building on Friday. That was when the feeling started. It was not fear exactly. Not yet. It was more like a small cold stone that settled somewhere below her ribs, just sitting there, not hurting, just present. The way a pebble in a shoe does not hurt at first. You just know it is there. She had worked at Pinnacle Creative Studios for 2 years. She was good at her job, quiet about her personal life, friendly enough without being close to too many people. She had a small group of friends, her college roommate Diane Park, who lived 3 neighborhoods away, and a couple of co-workers she sometimes had lunch with. Her world was organized and small in the way that felt safe rather than lonely. Daniel Harrow had joined the studio 8 months earlier as a project coordinator. He was not unpleasant. He was the kind of person who remembered everyone's coffee order and laughed at every joke and always held the elevator. He had asked Maya out in February, politely, and she had said no, politely, and she had thought that was the end of it. It was not the end of it. He had kept things professional at the office. No scene, no pressure, no sulking that anyone else could see. But he started appearing in her orbit in small ways. He would somehow always be in the kitchen when she went for water. He would find a reason to walk past her desk twice in an afternoon. He would appear at the same lunch spot she visited, alone, with a sandwich, sitting 2 tables away and not speaking to her, just being there. She had noticed these things and dismissed them as coincidence because they were individually so small that naming them out loud would have sounded paranoid. The gray Honda Civic made it harder to dismiss. She searched his name on LinkedIn that Friday night. His profile photo stared back at her. Dark hair, medium build, a smile that was wider than it needed to be. She remembered that smile from the elevator conversations and the lunch table proximity and felt the cold stone below her ribs press a little harder. She called Diane. "I think someone is following me," she said. Diane asked who. Maya told her about Daniel. About the car. About the kitchen appearances and the lunch spots and the way he always seemed to materialize just within her field of vision without ever doing anything specific enough to complain about. Diane was quiet for a moment. "Have you talked to HR? And said what? That a coworker sometimes parks on my street? You don't know it's him." "I know." Diane did not push back on that. She knew Maya was not the kind of person who invented things. "Okay. Document it. Write down every time you see the car, every time he turns up somewhere he shouldn't be. Date, time, location. Build the record first." Maya bought a small notebook the next day and started writing. November came in with wind that stripped the last leaves off the oak tree outside her apartment window. She filled 4 pages of the notebook in the first 2 weeks. The Honda outside her building, Tuesday the 5th, 6:48 p.m. Daniel in the lobby of the coffee shop she had ducked into on Saturday, no eye contact made, gone by the time she looked again, Thursday the 8th. A slow car that matched her walking pace for 1 block before turning, Monday the 11th. A text from an unknown number that said only nice jacket on the same day she had worn her new burgundy coat for the first time, Wednesday the 13th. That text was when the cold stone became something heavier. She had not told anyone at work what she was experiencing. She had no proof that the car was Daniel's. She had no proof the text was from him. She had a notebook full of dates and a feeling that it moved from a pebble to something closer to a brick, and the brick was getting heavier every morning when she left her apartment and every evening when she came home. She went to the police station on a Thursday evening. She sat across from an officer named Branson who had the tired eyes of a man who had seen too much to be surprised by anything and not enough of the right things to know what mattered. She told him everything. The car. The texts. The coincidences that were too consistent to be coincidences. He took notes. He looked at her notebook. He explained that what she was describing did not yet meet the legal threshold for a stalking complaint under Illinois law. He said it gently, in a way that was meant to be reassuring and was not. He told her to keep documenting and to contact them again if anything escalated. She walked home in the dark. The Honda Civic was not there that night. She was almost more unsettled by its absence than she had been by its presence. An absence meant he could be anywhere. A car parked across the street was at least a location she could see. She double-locked her door and did not sleep well. The situation at work shifted in the third week of November. Maya had stayed late to finish a pitch deck, and, by the time she packed up, the office was mostly empty. She was waiting for the elevator when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned. Daniel was standing at the end of the hallway. He was not moving toward her. He was just standing there the way the car just sat there, close enough to be undeniable, doing nothing that could be held against him. Working late, he said. Finishing up, she said. The elevator came. She got in. He did not follow. The doors closed and she stood very still and breathed through her nose until the lobby arrived. She went to HR the next morning. The HR manager was a woman named Patricia Stoll, efficient and warm in equal measure. She listened to everything Maya said and took the notebook and made a copy of it. She told Maya that she would speak to Daniel. She told Maya that there was a zero-tolerance policy on workplace harassment. She said all the right things. 2 days later she called Maya back in and said that Daniel denied everything and that without direct evidence connecting him to the texts or confirming his presence at the locations, there was very little the company could formally do. She was sympathetic. She offered to move Daniel to a different floor. She said Maya should feel free to come back if anything else happened. Maya thanked her and left the office and stood in the hallway and felt the floor tilt slightly beneath her feet. Not literally. Just the way it does when the world stops behaving the way you thought it would. She called Diane from the bathroom. Diane said she was coming over that evening and she was bringing wine and she was going to help Maya figure out what to do next. What Diane actually brought, along with the wine, was a screenshot. She had found a post in a private Facebook group for women in Chicago, a community where women shared safety concerns and local warnings. The post was 2 months old. A woman named Sarah Okafor had written about a gray Honda Civic that had followed her home from the gym 3 nights in a row in September. She had attached a photo. A partial plate. It matched what Maya had written in her notebook. Maya sat with that for a long time. "You're not the first," Diane said, not unkindly. They reached out to Sarah that night through the group. Sarah responded within the hour. She said she had gone to the police as well and gotten the same answer Maya had gotten. She said she had eventually moved apartments. She said she hoped Maya did not have to do the same. Maya thanked her and closed the laptop. She sat in her apartment with the double-locked door and the darkened windows and thought about the fact that she had lived in this apartment for 3 years and she loved it and she was not going to move. She thought about the fact that she had done nothing wrong. She thought about the fact that Daniel Harrow had asked her out in February and she had said no, and that single word had apparently turned her life into something she no longer recognized. She refilled her wine glass. She sat at her kitchen table and opened the Facebook group again and scrolled through it for a long time, reading other women's posts, their warnings, their advice, their small acts of watching out for each other in a city that moved too fast to notice. At the bottom of one thread, a woman had posted a name. Not as a provider of services. Not as an organization. Just a name, typed plainly. Marcus Vane. And, below it, asterisk if it is bad enough that the police won't help and moving isn't an option, reach out to him. He does not charge anything. He finds what they don't want found, asterisk someone had replied below that, asterisk he found mine. My guy never walked outside again without looking over his shoulder. Turned himself in 6 months later, asterisk another reply, asterisk he's called the Vampire King. Sounds insane but, it's real. He works nights. He finds things in the dark that normal people can't see in daylight, asterisk Maya stared at the name for a long time. She did not reach out that night. She was careful with who she trusted and, she did not reach out to strangers on the internet without thinking about it first. But, she wrote the name in her notebook on a fresh page. Marcus Vane. She underlined it once. She closed the notebook and went to bed. That night she dreamed about the gray Honda Civic, except in the dream it was not parked. It was moving. It was always just one block behind her no matter how fast she walked, keeping pace without ever getting closer, never getting farther, just there, behind her, in the amber light of a city that had stopped noticing. She woke up at 3 in the morning with the cold stone so heavy in her chest she had to sit up and breathe for a while before she could lie back down. By morning she had made a decision. There was a text from an unknown number on her phone when she unlocked it. 3 words. No punctuation. You won't leave, asterisk she picked up the notebook. She opened it to the fresh page where she had written Marcus Vane's name. She found the post in the Facebook group again. She found the contact link someone had shared below it. She typed out a message. She kept it short. She told him her name. She told him the situation. She told him that the police had said it was not enough and that HR had said it was not enough and that she was telling him because a woman she did not know had once written his name at the bottom of a thread and said that he found what others would not. She sent it before she could talk herself out of it. Then, she got dressed and went to work and sat at her desk and designed a logo for a bakery in Wicker Park and tried to act like a person who was not afraid. She was very good at that by now. Marcus Vane replied at 11:47 p.m. Maya had been asleep for 40 minutes when her phone lit up. She had not expected a response so quickly. She had not expected a response that night at all. But, there it was, plain and spare, no greeting, no pleasantries. Got your message. I need 3 things, the full plate number if you have it, the dates and locations you documented, and whatever name you have for the person you believe is responsible. Don't throw anything away. Don't confront him. I'll be in touch by Friday, asterisk she stared at the screen in the dark of her bedroom. The message was blunt in a way that felt like competence rather than rudeness. No, I'm so sorry you're going through this and know that sounds really scary, just 3 things, clearly stated, with a timeline attached. She sent the plate number she had from Sarah Okafor's photo. She attached photos of every page in her notebook. She typed Daniel Harrow's full name and his position at Pinnacle Creative Studios and hit send. She slept better than she had in 3 weeks. Friday came and went without a message from Marcus. She was not worried. The timeline had been his to set and she was going to trust it. She was a designer, and designers understood that good work took the time it took. She went to work. She avoided the hallway where Daniel's new desk was located on the floor above hers. She noticed the gray Honda Civic on her street on Friday evening and wrote the time and date in her notebook without looking toward the driver's side window. Saturday morning Marcus sent a second message. Daniel Harrow, 34. Lived in Lincoln Park until August, moved to Wicker Park. The Honda is registered to his mother's address in Naperville, which is why you can't trace it directly to him. He has a prior restraining order filed against him in 2019 by a woman in Milwaukee. It expired. He was never charged. There are 2 other women in Chicago who have been in contact with me over the last 6 months who have described the same car, the same behavior pattern, the same escalation timeline. You're not the first. You won't be the last if this doesn't stop. I'm going to need to meet with you in person. Public place, your choice. Bring everything you have, asterisk she read it twice. Then, a third time. She had known on some level, the level where you feel things before you can prove them, that she was not the first. Diane had said it. Sarah's message had said it. But, seeing it typed out plainly, seeing the 2019 restraining order, seeing the word escalation used with such clinical confidence, made the knowledge land in a different part of her body. Somewhere harder and older than fear. She texted back, the coffee shop on Armitage, Monday morning, 9 o'clock. How will I know you? I'll find you, he replied. She almost laughed. She did not know why. She spent Sunday with Diane. She told Diane everything, the messages, the plate number, the restraining order in Milwaukee, the other women. Diane sat very still while Maya talked, the way she always did when something was serious, like stillness was her way of paying full attention. Who is this guy? Diane asked. I don't know much. He has a reputation in the victim support community. Women say he finds things. That's not exactly a job description. No. But, the police found nothing and, HR found nothing and, Sarah found nothing, and, someone who calls himself the Vampire King found a prior restraining order in Milwaukee and, 2 other victims in Chicago in 48 hours, so I'm going to drink coffee with him on Monday and, see what he actually is. Diane looked at her for a long moment. I'm coming. You don't, I'm coming. They went together. The coffee shop was a small, warm place with mismatched chairs and a handwritten menu board and the particular smell of good espresso and old wood that made every room inside it feel like a borrowed library. They arrived at 8:50. They found a table near the window where Maya could see the door. Marcus Vane walked in at 9 exactly. He was not what she had expected, though she could not have said exactly what she had expected. He was tall, lean, somewhere in his mid-40s, with close-cropped gray at his temples and the kind of face that had been handsome once and was now something better, settled and watchful, with eyes that moved across the room in a single clean sweep before landing on Maya with a recognition that told her he had already looked her up too. He was wearing a dark jacket and carrying nothing. No briefcase, no bag. He sat down across from her and nodded once at Diane. Smart, he said. Never come alone. He did not explain himself. He did not explain the Vampire King name or his background or how he had found 3 victims in Chicago or how he had traced the plate to Daniel's mother. He ordered black coffee and he leaned forward slightly with his hands flat on the table and he listened. Maya had brought a folder, printouts of every notebook page, screenshots of every text from the unknown number, the photo from Sarah's post, the HR email from Patricia Stoll. She had organized it in chronological order because that was how she processed things, and she laid it out in front of him piece by piece. He went through it without speaking. When he reached the text that said "You won't leave," he set the page down and looked up. Has he made contact outside of texts from the unknown number? In person, verbal? Once, she said. In the hallway at work. He asked if I was working late. That was all. He's still in the testing phase, Marcus said. Watching to see how you respond. Whether you run, whether you report, whether you disappear. He already knows you reported to HR because the company spoke to him. He will have taken that as information. Information about what? About whether the normal systems will stop him. He picked up his coffee. They won't. He already knows that. He did this in Milwaukee and the restraining order expired and nothing followed him here. He believes he is smarter than the process. He's not, but he believes it, and belief is what drives behavior at this stage. He set down the coffee. I need 2 more weeks. I'm going to build a complete profile, his movements, his patterns, his digital footprint. He's made mistakes. They all do. The mistake is usually connected to ego. He wants you to know it's him without being able to prove it. That's the dynamic he enjoys. We're going to use that. Use it how? Diane asked. Marcus looked at her. By giving him something to confirm. Not bait exactly. An environment where his need to make himself known works against him. Maya thought about that. You want him to step forward. I want him to step forward somewhere I can record it. She sat with that for a moment. Outside the window, the street was busy with Saturday morning foot traffic, dog walkers and joggers and people carrying groceries, the ordinary machinery of a city that had no idea what was happening at the table by the window. 2 weeks, she said. 2 weeks, he agreed. He gathered her documents into the folder and handed it back to her. In the meantime, vary your route to work every day. Not to hide. Just to disrupt his certainty about your pattern. He needs to feel predictable. Right now he does. Change one thing a day. She nodded. And, don't look at the car, he added. He's watching to see if you look at the car. She had been looking at the car every single time. She had told herself she was documenting. She understood now that she had also been looking because looking was the only control she had, and he had been watching her look and reading it as confirmation that he had power over her attention. She stopped looking at the car. The 2 weeks that followed were the strangest of Maya's life. Not because they were dramatically worse, they were not. But because she was moving through them differently. She changed her route every morning as Marcus had instructed. She took the long way on Tuesdays, the shortcut through the park on Wednesdays, the bus instead of walking on Thursdays. Small things. She noticed, as the days went by, that the Honda appeared less frequently at fixed locations and more frequently in transit, as though it was trying to recalibrate, as though the change in her pattern had forced a change in his. She did not look at it. She and Marcus communicated by message every few days. He sent her things in pieces, the way a doctor delivers results, the important parts first, without preamble. He had located Daniel's other social media accounts, several of them running under names that were not his own. He had found posts that were not explicitly threatening but were full of the language that men like Daniel used when they talked to each other about women who had rejected them, language that coded obsession as devotion and surveillance as love and persistence as romantic inevitability. He had identified 2 women in other states who had similar experiences with a person matching Daniel's profile, though he was careful to say he could not yet confirm the connection legally. And then, in the 11th day of the 2 weeks, Daniel escalated. Maya was leaving work at 6 in the evening. She was walking toward the bus stop, not her usual route home, when Daniel pulled up alongside her. The Honda moved with her for almost a full block, slow, matching her pace, engine barely audible. The window was cracked. She did not look at the car. Her phone was in her hand. She had Marcus's number up. Her thumb was over the call button. Her legs kept moving, even, deliberate, not running, not hurrying, just walking like a person who was not afraid. From inside the car, Daniel's voice came through the cracked window. "You think this is over," he said. She kept walking. "You can go to whoever you want. You can tell whoever you want. You will never get away." She pressed call with her thumb. She walked another 2 blocks before the Honda turned off. She was shaking in a specific, contained way, the kind of shaking that starts in the hands and stays there, controlled by sheer force of will. Marcus picked up on the second ring. "He made verbal contact," she said. "He followed me in the car and spoke through the window. I have the date and time. I can file another police report." A short pause. Then, "Good. File it. Everything you remember, exact words if possible. This is what we needed. You expected this. Not this specifically. But, yes. When the pattern disrupts, the behavior escalates." He needed to reassert. He showed himself. Another pause, shorter. "Maya. Yes. You did exactly right. You didn't look. You didn't respond. You called." She sat down on a bench 2 blocks from the bus stop and waited for her hands to stop shaking. The city moved around her the way it always did, indifferent, continuous, full of ordinary lives being lived at full volume. She watched a woman walk a small dog on a pink leash. She watched 2 teenagers argue cheerfully over a phone screen. She watched a man in an apron bring chairs inside a cafe. The world did not know what had just happened to her. That was fine. It was going to know soon enough. She filed the police report that evening. This time the officer, a different one, younger, a woman named Constance Reed, took down the words verbatim. "You will never get away," she noted the pattern of prior complaints. She looked at the notebook documentation. She said the phrase constituted a direct verbal threat and opened a formal complaint. She also said, carefully, that it was a starting point and not a guarantee. Maya thanked her. She knew the difference by now between a door opening and a door staying open. When she got home, Marcus had already sent a message. "I have what I need. Give me 72 hours, *. She made tea. She sat at her kitchen table. The double-locked door behind her, the city outside her window doing its ordinary business, the notebook on the table with all its careful dates and times and half-plate numbers. She thought about Daniel Harrow, 34, of Wicker Park, formerly of Lincoln Park, formerly of Milwaukee, carrying a whole history of women whose names were written nowhere he could see them. She thought about Marcus Vane, whoever he was, whatever he did in the dark hours of the night that had earned him a name people whispered at the bottom of Facebook threads. She thought about the two women in Chicago she had never met who had felt this same cold stone below their ribs. She thought about Sarah Okafor, who had moved apartments instead of staying in her own home. She drank her tea. 72 hours. She could do 72 hours. She had done 11 days. She could do 3 more. Outside, the city hummed with its 10,000 ordinary sounds and the window was darkened, the street below was empty of gray cars, and Maya Reyes sat at her kitchen table and waited like a woman who had learned that waiting, done right, was not the same as being still. The 72 hours passed like something underwater, slow and strange and full of a pressure she could feel but not see. Marcus sent nothing during those 3 days. No updates, no check-ins. She did not message him either. She had learned already that he worked in a way that did not require management. She went to work. She varied her route. She did not look at the Honda when it appeared on her street on the second evening. She cooked dinner, answered client emails, redesigned a section header for the bakery logo that had been bothering her for a week, and went to bed at 11. On the third evening, at 9:17 p.m., Marcus sent a single message. "Can you call, *? She called immediately. He picked up and did not waste time. His voice was even, unhurried, the voice of someone who had done this enough times that the weight of it no longer surprised him. "I'm going to tell you what I found," he said. "And, then, I'm going to tell you what we do with it. You don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with. But, I want you to understand what you're dealing with fully before you decide." "Tell me," she said. He had traced the unknown number that sent her the texts. It had been routed through 2 prepaid SIMs, both purchased at convenience stores, one in Wicker Park, one in Logan Square. The second SIM had been used to access a private online account that Daniel ran under the name Quiet Architect. Marcus had, through means he did not elaborate on, accessed that account's activity logs. The account had been used to track multiple women's social media profiles, including Maya's and Sarah Okafor's and a woman in Evanston named Priya Mehta who had filed and, then, dropped a police complaint 6 months earlier. The account contained photographs taken from a distance, without the subject's knowledge. Maya was in 11 of them. Sarah was in 9. Priya was in 6. None of the photographs were explicit. All of them were the kind of image that should have been impossible. Her outside her building. Her on the bus. Her at the coffee shop on Armitage, taken, she realized, from outside the window, during the meeting with Marcus, when she had been sitting at the table telling Marcus everything. He had been outside watching her report him to someone. She sat very still when Marcus finished. "How did you get access to that account?" she asked. "He made a mistake," Marcus said. "People like him always do." His mistake was using the same username across 3 platforms, the private one and 2 semi-public photography forums where he discussed technique. One of the forums had weak security. Once I had his activity signature I could follow it. Is any of this usable legally? Some of it directly, some of it as a guide to where law enforcement should look. The photographs are usable. The texts from the prepaid SIM are traceable to point-of-sale footage, convenience store cameras. The verbal threat from the car last week is on your police report. Constance Reed filed it properly. Here's what I'm going to do. He paused. I'm going to contact Detective Reed and give her an anonymized roadmap. The locations of the SIM purchases, the usernames, the photography forum connection. I won't explain how I know. She won't ask. She's a good detective and she'll know what to do with a clean roadmap. You've done this before. Yes. She thought about what she wanted to ask. She had a list. She had been building it for 3 days. But the one that mattered most was the simplest one. Why, she said. Why do you do this? A pause that was not empty. A pause full of something he had decided, a long time ago, not to put into words. He said aloud. Because I can, he said finally. And, because someone should. She accepted that. It was not a full answer, but it was a real one. The other women, she said. Sarah. Priya. I'm in contact with both of them. They've agreed to provide statements if it comes to that. It will be stronger as a pattern. 1 woman is a complaint. 3 women is a record. 3 women is a record. She felt those words land somewhere below her ribs, right where the cold stone had been living since October. Except the stone felt different now. Not lighter exactly. More like it had changed shape, from something passive to something angular. Something that had edges she could use. Okay, she said. Do it. He contacted Detective Reed the following morning. Maya did not know exactly what he said or how he said it. What she knew was that Reed called her at noon, crisp and focused, and told her that she was opening a formal investigation into Daniel Harrow for stalking, criminal surveillance, and harassment. She needed Maya to come in and give a formal recorded statement. She said to bring the notebook, every screenshot, and any witnesses she had. Maya brought Diane, who had saved every text screenshot Maya had sent her over the past 2 months as a running record, organized in a folder on her phone labeled Maya's Nightmare File, because Diane Park approached crises the way she approached everything, with system and receipts. The statement took 2 hours. Maya told it all from the beginning, chronologically, the way she had organized the folder for Marcus, from the gray Honda Civic first appearing in late October to the voice through the cracked window saying you will never get away. She told it calmly and, with precision, and, when she was done she felt wrung out and, also, for the first time in months, as though the story had a container around it. As though it now lived somewhere official and real rather than only in her body. Detective Reed thanked her. She said she was going to move quickly. Moving quickly, Maya learned, still meant waiting. The investigation took 11 days. 11 days during which the Honda appeared on her street and she did not look at it, and Daniel showed up in her peripheral vision at the office and she walked past him without breaking her pace, and the cold stone stayed below her ribs, and she kept working on the bakery logo and answered client emails and had dinner with Diane on Wednesday and walked home through the park because she felt like it. On the 12th day, Detective Reed called at 8 in the morning. We arrested Daniel Harrow at his residence this morning, she said. We're charging him with stalking under the Illinois Stalking Act, criminal surveillance, and harassment. His phone and laptop are in evidence. We have the photographs. We have the SIM purchase records. The convenience store in Logan Square had him on camera, clearly identifiable. His attorney will likely push for bail, but the prosecutor is prepared to request conditions. He will not be allowed within 500 feet of you, your home, or your workplace as a condition of release. Maya sat down on the edge of her bed. She was still in the clothes she had slept in. Is it over? She asked. The arrest is a beginning, Reed said carefully. But, yes. His ability to do what he has been doing is over. Maya thanked her and sat on the edge of her bed for a while after the call ended. She did not cry. She had been waiting to feel something dramatic, release, or relief, or the particular weightlessness she associated with good news. What she felt instead was quieter than that. Like a sound that had been running in the background of every room she had been in for months had finally stopped. You do not realize how loud a continuous sound is until silence replaces it. She texted Marcus. They arrested him this morning, he replied in less than a minute. Good, that was all. She did not need more. She texted Diane next. Diane sent back 12 exclamation points and a voice memo of herself doing a small victory shout in what sounded like her car. Maya laughed. It was the first real laugh she had produced in months. It sounded strange in her apartment, too big for the quiet, and she liked it. She texted Sarah Okafor, whom she had been in contact with since October. Sarah replied, finally. I hope they keep him, then, she texted Priya Mehta, whom she had spoken to for the first time 10 days ago when Marcus had introduced them by message, two strangers who had been photographed without knowing it, bound together by a grey Honda Civic and a man who believed his attention was a form of ownership. Priya sent back a photo of herself holding a coffee cup up toward the camera like a toast. Maya sent back the same. The preliminary hearing took place 3 weeks later. Daniel appeared before the court looking diminished in a way that had nothing to do with the charges, more like a person who had only ever been large in the specific context of being unseen, and who shrank when placed under light. He pleaded not guilty. His attorney argued for standard bail. The prosecutor presented the pattern: 3 victims, documented over 18 months, 2 states, 1 prior restraining order that had expired without consequence. The photographs. The prepaid SIMs. The voice recordings. The judge set bail at $50,000 with strict GPS monitoring and the 500-foot exclusion order already in place. Daniel was not allowed to leave Cook County without notifying his bail officer. The gray Honda Civic did not appear on Maya's street again. The full trial was set for 7 months out. Reed kept Maya informed of the timeline. The evidence was strong, she said that plainly, without overselling it. The photographs alone were significant. The prepaid SIM trace put him in possession of the devices used to send threatening texts. The verbal threat had been reported and filed on the same day it occurred. 3 women had agreed to give coordinated testimony about the same behavioral pattern. It was, Reed told her, exactly the kind of case prosecutors prefer, not because stalking cases were ever simple, but because this one had been documented with unusual thoroughness. The notebook helped, Reed said, with a tone that was almost warmth. I was told to document, Maya said. Whoever told you that gave you good advice? Maya thought about Diane, who had said it first on the phone in October when the cold stone was still small. She thought about Marcus, who had taken 48 hours to find a restraining order in Milwaukee, and 2 other women in Chicago, and a roadmap that had led law enforcement exactly where they needed to go. She had never asked Marcus what he did before the Vampire King reputation. She had pieces, the way he spoke about evidence and escalation timelines with the fluency of someone trained in it, the way he communicated with law enforcement in a language that made them listen without resistance, the way he said they all make mistakes with a certainty that came from watching it happen many times. She did not ask because he had made it clear, in the compact economy of his communication, that the past was not the point. The present case was the point. The outcome was the point. The outcome, when it came, was what Reed had predicted. Daniel Harrow was convicted on 2 counts of stalking and 1 count of criminal surveillance 8 months later, in a Cook County courtroom where Maya sat in the 3rd row with Diane on one side and Priya Mehta on the other. Sarah Okafor attended by video call. The sentencing was 3 weeks after that: 2 years of supervised probation, a permanent restraining order in Illinois, and mandatory enrollment in a behavioral intervention program. His employer had already terminated him. The GPS monitoring would remain in place throughout his probation. When the sentence was read, the courtroom did what courtrooms do: it absorbed the information with professional quiet. No drama. No crescendo. Just words spoken into a room and a record made of them. Maya thanked Reed outside the courthouse. Reed shook her hand with a firmness that was its own kind of acknowledgement, one professional to another, a recognition of a job done under difficult conditions. She and Diane and Priya went for lunch after. They talked about ordinary things. Priya was changing jobs and starting a ceramics class. Diane was planning a trip to Japan in the spring. Maya had just finished the bakery logo and the client loved it and had referred her to 3 others. They did not talk very much about the verdict. It was there in the room with them the way the cold stone had been in Maya's chest, present, felt, gradually changing shape. From something heavy into something that you notice less every day. From an object of fear into a simple fact of what had happened and what it had required to answer. She texted Marcus from the restaurant while Diane was ordering dessert. He was convicted. 2 years probation, permanent restraining order, GPS monitoring, mandatory program, *. The reply came while she was putting her phone down. Good. How are you? *. She looked at the question for a moment. It was the first time he had asked. She realized she had been waiting for it without knowing she was. She typed, *, I'm okay. Really okay, I think. Thank you doesn't cover it, *, he replied, *, it doesn't have to. Stay safe, *, and that was the last message he sent. She kept his number in her phone. She did not know if she would ever use it. She hoped she would not need to. She thought about the other women who had written his name at the bottom of threads in private Facebook groups, in dark corners of the internet where women who had been followed and watched and threatened found each other and left notes for the people who came after them. She thought about how many times someone in a situation like hers had typed those 3 words, reach out to him, and what it had cost them to ask a stranger for help, and what it had meant when that stranger actually answered. She thought about what he had said when she asked why he did it. Because I can. And, because someone should, *. She left the restaurant with Diane at 3 in the afternoon. The November air had the same bite it had carried a year ago when this had started. Same kind of sky, gray and low, the kind that flattens the light and makes the city look like a charcoal drawing of itself. She walked to the bus stop without varying her route for the first time in a year. She walked the way you walk when no one is behind you. She got on the bus. She sat by the window. The city moved past her the way it always had, continuous, indifferent, full of people living ordinary lives at full volume. She watched it the way she used to watch it before October, without scanning, without cataloging, without keeping one part of her mind always turned backward over her shoulder. She had her notebook in her bag. The one from last year. She had bought a new one in February, intending to start fresh, but she had kept the old one. Not to look at often. Just to keep. There was something important about keeping it, about the fact that the record existed, that the dates and times and half-plate numbers and ugly texts were all there in her own handwriting, that she had not waited passively for someone to believe her but had built the case herself from the ground up, one documented day at a time. She thought about all the women whose names were not in notebooks. Whose documentation had been lost or laughed at or simply never started because no one had said to them, on the right night, write it down. She looked out the bus window. The city was doing its thing. A man was walking a small dog on a pink leash, or maybe a different man and a different dog, the city full of repetitions that were not quite the same twice. She pulled out the new notebook from her bag and opened it to a blank page. She was not writing anything. There was nothing to document. No cars, no texts, no voices through cracked windows. The page was blank because the present moment was clean and contained and entirely her own. She held the pen anyway. Just for a moment. Feeling the weight of it. A small, ordinary thing in her hand, in her city, on her way home. Then, she put the pen away. She watched the city go past the window and the bus carried her home and, for the first time in over a year, she thought of nothing that needed to be feared, and the quiet of that was so enormous and so ordinary that she almost missed it. She did not miss it. She was paying attention. She always paid attention. That was the thing that had saved her, in the end, not luck, not a dramatic rescue, not the moment a man with a reputation built in the dark hours of the night had answered a stranger's message. All of those had mattered. All of those had been necessary. But they had only worked because she had been watching. Because she had noticed the gray Honda Civic 3 days in a row before it became something terrible. Because she had written it down. Because she had refused, through all of it, to believe that the small things she noticed were not real. She got off the bus 2 blocks from her apartment and walked the rest of the way home in the cold November light. She unlocked her door. Just the one lock today. She stepped inside. She stood for a moment in the hall of her own apartment, in the home she had not left, in the life she had not allowed to be dismantled. Then, she hung up her coat and made tea and sat at her kitchen table and got back to work.